I'm working on a 2011 GMC Acadia, and I am taking the transmission out of it to replace the torque converter and a couple other things. But I wanted to make this video real quick. This thing calls for usually taking the engine and transmission out the bottom, and you have to take a lot of stuff loose to drop the engine out, the AC, got to drain the coolant, a lot of different things. But anyways, I chose to take just the transmission out. And I wanted to show you here, I've got just a 2-stage jack. And on a lift, obviously, these things help. But just wanted to show here that it's a tight fit. But yes, it can come out of there. I've got the engine supported with nothing really fancy. I have a engine bar from Harbor Freight, like 80 bucks. And I've got a piece of it's square tube with the holes in it. There's a name for it, I can't remember, but I drilled the front out and put a one piece or a 1 foot piece of 3/4 inch all thread, and I put like a little rubber boot on the bottom of it that you'd put like on a leg of like a wooden chair or something. And so I took the axles out, kind of left all of this intact. The power steering here, the rack, I just, in the middle there, I tied it up to the exhaust manifold on the outside here just for precaution. I wired it up to the strut, and well, used to be nice. And here's the subframe. Let's take it loose. Not a whole lot here. You gotta unbolt the power steering from back here. You gotta undo your sway bar end links. I just took the lower ball joint loose and left the A-arms on, so I didn't have to take any of the steering knuckle or anything like that, so shouldn't have any problems with like alignment whenever it goes back together. While I'm in here, I'm also going to replace these motor mounts, which are, I've already found one bad. Playing with this one, I think it's bad. It's got a lot of wiggle in it. That one back there seems kind of okay. There's one that sets here for the transmission, but literally all I did was unbolted everything, and then there's like these 4 main bolts here, there, and there, and I just lowered it all the way down to the ground. I put these little supports here under the arms of my lift, and I got it as low as I could possibly get it, and dropped this down. I guess I could show you too where I put my bolts, maybe. I don't know if I can see it up here. There's a hole right there amongst all of that high pressure fuel lines. It's a little tricky to get that right. I think it's a M10. There's one there, then there's one at the back of the head as well that I put that chain on. I think I had to space it to where the chain wouldn't hit it wouldn't hit those high pressure fuel lines. It will go in between there. And then on this side, it's going to be hard without letting this down, but you might be able to see there's 2 motor mount bolts up there, or I'm going to call it a motor mount. They call it something different. It's this mount right here, which it was busted. You can see that crack right there. Look at them replacing all of that. There's 2 bolts that go into the side of the block right there that mount goes to. I just used those 2 motor mount bolts. Also, to get the bolts to go through a link, you can see right here, I used a, let me zoom in a little bit. I used a, what do they call that? It's a link where you can like unthread it. And I think that's like a 5/16 they call it, or something like that. You'll have to do that because the M10 bolts like won't go through that chain if you choose to go this route. So you'll actually need 4 of those little links like that. And then the rest of it, I'm not going to go into big detail because if you're doing this, you're probably very mechanically inclined and you just want to know whether or not you can take this transmission out like this. And I'm going to go ahead and lower this one down. Everything should be cleared. Let me make sure. Looks good. We're just going to let this down real gently. And yeah. So if you got one of these two-stage jacks, it makes it really easy, and the double tilt helps a lot. I've had a single tilt before. A single tilt would have been much trickier because as you start to separate this, you need to be able to manipulate this to like kind of compensate for the lean of the transmission as it separates. So I do suggest you could do it probably without a double tilt. It's going to be more work. I'll actually slide this out of the way and I might be able to show you a little better. Oh, come on. It's a heavy little transmission. Let me get a light. So there's my setup for the bolt. You can see I use like a bigger nut to kind of space it out just a little bit to where the chain's not laying on, you know, the head and everything. And then same deal over here. Where is it? Right there. Got it spaced out. I think I might have used 2 on that one. Yeah, I think there's 2 there. So you got to get this spacing just right, but that chain will clear all of these lines and not put a bunch of tension on them if you do it right. But there it is. It's out. That engine is suspended. All the motor mounts are loose. I'll let this down and maybe show you real quick what I did on the top side just as a precaution. Let's see. First, I'm going to raise this up. I'm going to take my stand loose. Bring that out of here. Oh. Wow, that's hard to do one-handed. Let's see. I'm going to pull my release and just let it down real slow. So I don't really want to leave it up high with that engine suspended, just in case. That looks kind of goofy. I left my air ratchet on my retractable airline. And that is how I took out transmission from this Acadia. Here's my setup for holding the engine. This is the piece I built. I got this little rubber thing that goes, like I said, it goes on the bottom like a chair leg. And this is a let's see, 3/4. You will have to drill this out here, so you gotta have a big drill bit for that. I put a 7/16 bolt through these holes because that's what they were. You might be able to, this is just what we had at Lowe's locally, and you may be able to get like a bigger version of one of these that might have bigger holes to use, but this seemed to work fine. Here's where I put these ends. There's a solid metal structure here, and then back here, this is solid metal across here. There's plastic on top of both, but they won't, I mean, this is good sturdy plastic here over the metal. And then I put this little spacer block here, just in case, you know, I tried to take all the movement out of this, and I also put a little 1x over here and a little plate to make sure this didn't like try to move that way. Same thing on this side, a little block, and a little piece of square tube handy, and put that in there, and that's how I did it. That is a Harbor Freight special. Nothing really that special about it. And then added this little tripod leg to keep it from twisting, and it's good and sturdy. And here's where one last thing, I'll show you the bolts on this side. You will have to take out, you can see there, you'll have to take out the fuse box on this side. That fuse box is a little tricky to take out. So right there's that motor mount bolt. That's part of the motor mount. Part of it is actually out. Let's see. Here is the other section of motor mount. It sets like this, and then that mount, the rubber part of the mount goes here, and this bolts to the mount that's on the engine. I took this loose because it was in the way of what I was trying to do. So take that out, set it aside. We'll put it back together later. But yeah, this engine is fully suspended like that. Didn't have to take loose, you know, fuel lines, didn't have to take loose coolant, power steering, anything. The only thing I actually had to take loose on the transmission was there was this transmission cooler line, which I'd already drained the coolant. There's a transmission cooler line here. There's the shift cable, and then all the bolts that, you know, to the bell housing. One other thing I would like to note on this is to get access over here, you have to take out that air cleaner box. That one right there. And you can see here, I've got the air cleaner, I've got the inner fender, and the windshield washer fluid reservoir. You can see here that all of that's out. You have, if you want to take this out properly, because I sat and tried for a long time to finagle this thing out of there with the windshield washer neck in the way, and I could not do it. And if somebody knows how to do it, good on them, but I strongly suggest taking that windshield washer reservoir out. It's not that big a deal once you get the inner fender, or the splash guard inner fender thing out of the way. There's these two connections up high. They're a quick connect right here and here. They're two different kinds of quick connects, so you won't get them confused. And then I think there's only 3 bolts. So there's like one up here, one there, one around the bottom somewhere. Yep. And this thing comes right out, and then it gives room for this little breather thing that goes down in there, or fresh air collection. It gives it room to come out of there, and that makes life a whole lot easier. So anyways, I'm going to put a torque converter and a couple other things in this transmission, and hopefully we'll get this thing back on the road soon.